Thousands of civilian employees who work for the military on Guam could face furloughs if the U.S. budget crisis is not resolved and automatic cuts known as sequestration happen. In an emailed response to PNC News, Joint Region Marianas Public Affairs Officer Lieutenant Matt Knight states explicitly that no official notification of furloughs has been given. However, he does note that, quote, if sequestration takes effect on March 1st, approximately 2,000 Department of Defense civilians working for the Navy, Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Department of Defense Education Activity, and Defense Logistics Agency on Guam may be affected by the proposed furloughs. Both Congress and our workforce will be notified of furlough plans prior to enactment in accordance with the law and guidance from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. Knight goes on to explain that there are specific processes and notice requirements for furloughs, including a 30-day employee notification. Knight writes that the welfare of our civilian workforce is a priority. He also states that they are still hopeful that sequestration is truly averted and not just delayed. Many of Guam's local agencies are also bracing for sequestration. GURA Administrator Mike Duenas is hoping that they can find ways to live within their expected 5% cut in funding. However, because the cut will happen halfway through the fiscal year, it actually has a doubling effect, which means some programs will suffer.
5% at the beginning doesn't sound like a lot of money, but that's 5% over the remaining 6 months of the fiscal year. And so that it's in effect trying to absorb a 10% cut. We are looking carefully at how we can absorb this 5% cut without affecting our ability to maintain the houses. We may be able to defer some maintenance, but not for too long a period.
At this point, GURA can only estimate the potential low and high impacts of sequestration. For public housing, they could receive cuts as low as $120,000 and as high as $475,000. For Section 8, as low as $485,000 and as high as $2.76 million. Overall, GURA could be cut as little as $615,000 or as much as $3.24 million.
We are looking at how these cuts will affect us. In terms of our operations, we may have to defer any hirings. We may see longer periods of time between inspections. We are looking at to what extent we can adjust our payment standards and our utility allowances, which may impact families.
Duenas says their Section 8 program assists about 2,400 families on Guam a year. However, if sequestration were to happen, they would not be able to assist that many families, but they don't think that they'll have to cut any families, as about 150 families drop out of the program every year. Usually, they would fill those positions with families who are on a waiting list, but if sequestration happens, the 4,000 families on the waiting list will have to wait longer. For now, Duenas is hopeful that the cuts won't force him to cut employees.